Welcome back to It's Only Money on Real Radio 104.1 with Scott Brown from Edgewater Family Wealth. EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com is the website you want to go to for all your financial advising needs. Plus, they have the contact information along with the blog section, and you can get past episodes of It's Only Money right there on the website. How convenient is that? But now, in the second segment of the show for a change, we go to Tammy with the numbers.
Yay! Go, man.
You have people can't if they could see him how much joy that brings him. Just like the smile, like his face turns red.
Yeah,
like it's just nothing but pure happiness.
It's Sunday morning, isn't it?
That's
how
right.
it should be.
Yeah, it's people are starting off their morning and they're like, is that the numbers? Like, yeah, it is gonna be a good Sunday.
And yeah, indeed, it's good. We have the good news, and we have even the good news. I don't know which one you want to start with.
Well, I mean, you got to save the good news for a second, of course. Right. That's just proper grammar.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So the week we had a railroad strike that was averted, thankfully. That could have put a tremendous additional cost on the shipping, and we could have, that would have been very.
Ryan wouldn't have gotten his Amazon packages as quickly.
I would not, exactly. And I have oh my god! I'm for my trip. I had to overnight a bunch of stuff, and I saw the railroad strike might happen, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be bad.
This ain't good.
We forget how much we rely on not an antiquated technology, but like a technology that's from the 1800s. It's definitely been upgraded since then. But people, when they think of this kind of stuff, they tend to think semi trucks, maybe ships.
Yeah,
train is oft forgot about.
That is, and you say it's been upgraded. I don't know if you've been on Amtrak lately, but I'm not convinced that's correct.
I have literally never been on a train.
Oh, it's awesome! Yeah, it's awesome. It's actually fun.
Is it?
Yeah.
I got to try it one day.
Yeah, you do got to do it.
Yeah, and it's if it is upgraded, it would save a lot of cost long term.
Yeah,
because the railroad maintenance, the fuel, etc., where these trains run on, it will end up costing less than any other.
If they're updated.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. We've been trying to do that for 20 years. I don't want to be that guy, but if you've ridden on a train in Europe, you're like, what are we doing?
Yes.
What the heck?
Yeah.
See, I have been on a train in Europe, and I'm like, this is the most easy and convenient thing I've ever experienced in my life. I've never been on a U.S. train, but it doesn't. See, like we have the Sunrail here, and I live by a station, but it runs at the weirdest times and never on the weekend, and it doesn't stop anywhere I need to go.
No, well, it stops a lot of places, but never where you want it to go.
Exactly. So if the train shut down, though, our economy would take a massive hit.
Well, it will cost more to ship stuff, and we need to ship stuff to sell stuff, right? And it's one of the components in the inflation data that we see every month. And last month it wasn't that good, neither this month, but it would have made it way worse if that actually happened.
Yeah, I love how we're at in the economy right now. It's like it's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah,
like I heard the Fed, like people that work in the Fed, they were talking about how they were tricked by inflation this last time around. They thought they had it under control, and they're really surprised that it continued to go up.
Slippery animal, that inflation.
Yeah, this inflation. What I thought it was transitory, isn't that? Are we still using that word?
It's just a very long transition. Yeah. You just don't understand.
The
transition.
Train is very slow.
Yeah, see, there you go. It's all the train's fault.
What's the difference between transitory inflation and regular inflation?
One rides the train, I guess.
Yeah.
The other one does.
Yeah. Okay. One of them took a jet to get where it was going. The other one's still on the train.
God, yeah.
I think we got the train one.
Yeah, I would hope whenever inflation's high, that's transitory. Like where it's like, nope, this is where it's at now.
Well, whether something's whether inflation's transitory or not depends on your political party, right? So if your political party's in power, it's transitory. If your political party's not in power, it's right now awful and terrible and never going away as long as those people are in charge.
The worst. And speaking of inflation, now we're moving to the good news. So head inflation is down from what it was.
I get that when people compliment me a lot.
The gooder?
I get head inflation.
they make the shampoo for that.
I get a bigger ego. So what is head inflation?
Well, it's the entire basket of goods.
Headline.
Headline,
He's
yeah.
shortening
Okay.
it. He's talking in the lingo. if you
Gotcha.
will.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
My
I mean,
bad.
I know. I'm just
Yeah, of
asking for
course,
the
of
average
course,
listener.
Of course.
Of course, yes, it is that headline. So the kind of not as great news is that core CPI, which is now no food or energy there, is up,
Yeah.
and
That was a surprise.
that was a surprise.
Yeah.
However, I said it's not that bad because it's more under control when I say it is controllable by increasing rates. So when you increase rates, it hits the core, doesn't hit the headline as much.
Yeah.
So now the core is up, if I'm going to say interest rates are even higher, then the core is going to go down, supposedly.
And
Mm.
energy and food were down.
Oh, yeah,
and,
big
and
time.
just so people understand that they were down. They weren't down a lot, but they
Big
were
time.
down some for
Actually,
sure.
energy was down 5%.
Okay, well that's a lot.
That's a
I'll
lot.
take that. That's at the gas pump, right?
Mhm.
That's where a lot of people see the pain is at the gas pump. So
Absolutely.
that is certainly beneficial. But the core number, not including those things,
Mhm.
did inch up surprisingly, at least to me, just a bit.
Yes, it wasn't that much, but as Scott said, because it is the surprise bait, which what takes everybody at it. Surprise, hence the name,
Yeah.
right?
It's a good name.
Somebody jumps out of a cake at the Fed and tells surprise.
And you go like, "Whoa, I didn't expect that."
Didn't see that coming.
Right.
There's a tiny clown in our core cake.
So now what we see with the core CPI, it is more likely that the next interest rate is going to be 100. Now it's not likely. We don't know, but there was a lot of talk about
So
it.
100 basis points or 1% is
Mhm.
what he's referring to, which it was expected. If you'd asked people a month ago or two, it was kind of like, maybe it'll be 50 basis points or 0.5%. And then the last few weeks, people went, I think it's going to be 75 basis points. And now there's some folks that think it's going to be a full 1% because the Fed is having a little trouble wrangling this inflation monster to the ground.
I was going to ask that. Do you have full faith in the Fed that they're doing the right moves?
Well, they're never going to get it perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's not how the system works. They're tinkering along the way. Their job is to manage unemployment and inflation. Those are the two directives. A lot of people think it's other things, and arguably it could be for all I know. Politically, people will say, well, they're doing it for this reason or for that reason. And, whatever. The reality is the mandate is inflation and unemployment. And I think we could all agree on both sides, mostly anyway, that they were a little late to the game on this, and they probably primed the pump a little too much with COVID dollars and alike, different programs and P.S. both parties did it, just so we're aware. Both parties were, as they say, throwing money out of a helicopter. So they probably overdid that, and now they're trying to fix what they created in the first place. Would you agree, Jamie?
Absolutely, yeah. And you can see that in the housing market, for example, because it's one of the most sensitive sectors to interest rate changes, along with automotive. And there's an indicator there. I think it's called the Mannheim indicator for used cars, that you can see the prices of them, how it moves.
Wow.
Like, it's fun to look
There's
at.
an actual indicator for used cars.
Yeah. The Mannheim.
I like it.
And it's down used cars from the previous month.
Right.
But for the year, they're up as everything else, as we expected.
Is it the same index for used cars as it is for steamrollers?
Oh, I was so close to making that joke, and I'm like, how many people are going to get that? But Ryan just jumped right in with both feet.
I'll make all the bad jokes for you. Don't worry about
That's
it.
what we pay him for. Still, half the audience is going, what is he talking
You have
about?
to explain to me what a steamroller
People know
is.
Mannheim steamroller. Well, Tammy just doesn't. So, but I appreciate the courtesy laugh. That's what I go for.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, steamroller. Like,
It just sounds funny.
I just imagined like a train with a steamroller on it and just going down. the rail.
Tammy, don't let him do this to you.
Yeah,
Just power your way through it.
I'll explain it for you. You know how they pave a road
Yeah.
and they got the big thing with the wheel?
Oh, yeah.
That's a steamroller.
Oh, why is it? It doesn't work on steam, though, does it?
They used to.
Yeah, not anymore. We've actually upgraded that, unlike the trains.
Last time I checked, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So used cars are doing well.
Well, they're less expensive than the month before, but they're still expensive. But new cars are more expensive. See, because there's higher demand, I guess. I don't know, but that's why you look at the CPI report. It tells you that.
Well, that's the bizarre thing of this economy, right? It's like it's schizophrenic, this economy. All right, you have low unemployment, you have a strong consumer by every indication.
Yeah.
but you have a slowdown in housing,
Mhm.
and you have kind of the inflation that comes with the situation. So there's we're kind of in rates are a little topsy turvy. The yield curve's a little inverted. So there's like all kinds of symptoms. We just don't know what the disease is,
Yeah,
right? There's
yeah.
all like, oh, I think it's no, maybe it's no. That doesn't make any sense, right? So
Yeah.
we're in a weird spot for the Fed to kind of thread this needle. So, listen, any headway they can make on taming inflation without increasing unemployment and without squashing the consumer altogether, I'll consider that a win if we're there in 6 months.
I agree. Yeah. And to your point, also, there's an argument to be made on both sides.
Yeah.
You can see an economist saying, oh, no, it's going that direction. And another one giving the exact opposite one.
Well, that's not new for economists.
Right.
I tend to rely on my astrologer more than economists.
It does feel like in the economy magic 8-ball, we're at outlook uncertain.
Yeah, exactly. It shook it up, and that's what came up. Yes, no, it's listen. As I'm fond of saying, and I, of course, this will be immensely hypocritical considering where I'm sitting, but people who get paid to talk often will.
Fair enough. And you can check out more It's Only Money by going to the podcast section on edgewaterfamilywealth.com. You get all past episodes. You can get financial talk with Tammy because he does bring you those sweet, sweet numbers as always. And we'll be right back with more It's Only Money here on Real Radio 104.1.
Keep it coming, man.
You're listening to It's Only Money here on Real Radio 104.1. I'm Ryan from the Monsters, and I'm here with Scott Brown of Edgewater Family Wealth, edgewaterfamilywealth.com, and also from Edgewater Family Wealth, we've got Tammy here as well, who's just got a little bit of the numbers left, little baby numbers, just a light little background
to catch up. Yeah. So what we were talking about the economy, how it works, how the arguments were on both sides and all. And I wanted to look at the housing market right now. Now, we noticed that since December, supply, the number of houses that are available or being listed, has almost doubled. Yes. So naturally, you think if there are more houses, the price should drop, right?
Yes.
But it didn't. It barely moved.
Yeah.
So from December for 2022, prices up to last month were up 20%, median price.
Yeah.
Is that because even though it doubled, it's still such a low amount of inventory?
Because of demand. There's a lot of demand on housing. There's a lot. People want to live somewhere, right?
I hate that about people.
They're so demanding, these people.
Yeah, they want roofs over their
Food
head.
and shelter.
Ugh. Shelter. Overrated.
Yeah, come on.
Which is a item on CPI too. But yeah, so from last month, actually, 20% that was. Now it's down to 17%. So it tells you the 3% that happened, the drop, that was in August. And during that time, we had even more and more listings available in the market.
So housing demand and prices have dropped a little due
Tiny
to
bit.
the increased supply.
And the increase of mortgage.
Yeah, mortgage rates. Well, and they go hand in hand, right? It's chicken or the egg kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, and now again, as we've talked about, this is not an accident.
No.
Back to the Fed, this is, believe it or not, what they want. They want housing prices to slow down. They want people to slow down their crazy house buying. And how they do that is by adjusting rates.
Absolutely, yes. Now, the good news is it didn't crash. It's not likely to.
Would you call it a soft landing?
I don't know. Is it a landing yet?
Well,
We're still there.
that's a fair point. We probably haven't landed yet.
Not
So
yet.
we don't know if it's a soft, feathery landing or a big thud. We
Yeah.
would prefer the former rather than the latter.
Absolutely, yeah. And now what we think is, it's going to go between 75 basis points to 100, the increase in interest rate. How is that going to affect the housing market? You think about that.
Dramatically, I would think.
Probably, but we don't know for a fact. But we know that we passed the equilibrium point. You know what the equilibrium point there when demand
Brian, you
and
know the
supply-
equilibrium point, right?
Of course I
Yeah.
do. But again, we have these listeners that might not know,
So demand and supply, when they're equal, everything else is held stable. The price reaches a point that okay, I know the price is going to be this way based on how much people want it, how much people are offering. But now when one of these two variables changes, price will change based on that. less supply, more demand, less demand, more supply, price goes up.
So
and
we've
down.
passed equilibrium, is what you're saying.
It seems like, because up until last month, price was stable.
Mm-hmm.
It goes up maybe like a 0.5% down,
Mhm.
but now it's dropped 3%. Although mortgage didn't change in the past month.
Right.
So that leads to think, well, probably we've passed the equilibrium by a nudge. So price is probably going to stay this way or drop a tiny bit.
Yeah. And in Florida and Central Florida in particular, well, I guess in Florida in particular, we have a little bit of a hedge because we're a sought after low tax state. And so we have a lot of bodies, a lot of human beings still coming here who, whether they pay 5% or 4% or 6% for a mortgage, they still, as you say, have to have shelter and are likely to pay the price to some degree.
Yeah.
To, if their payment went up $200, they're like, I can still do it. If their payment goes up $400, okay, maybe I'm going to rent and see what happens then.
Yeah. Because what's the alternative, right?
Right.
Renting. And we're lucky to be living here.
Yeah,
at this
no,
point,
there's for now until there's so many people that we can't move around anymore, and we have to dig up I-4 again. But we'll cross that literal bridge when we get to it.
I can't wait for the 16 to we're so close to that. The 16 lane I-4.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
Wow. I can only imagine.
You just gave Tammy a headache.
A lot of steamrollers.
No, we're gonna need some Mannheim steamrollers.
A lot of Mannheim steamrollers to make I-4 work from that. I always feel weird about the housing thing because now, I've said this before, I'm a homeowner. I don't want my prices to go down. I like them where they're at.
Funny thing to say that because most homeowners will think similar to that.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of listings that were in the market. They pulled them off because they think, no, I don't want to get paid that low. I'll just wait. I'm paying low mortgage on it. If I sell it, I'm going to go live in rent or, I have to buy another house.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take this home off listing for a while.
Well, to me, that's there's 2 points to be made. The first one is the taxes, right? So if your house goes up in value, you got to pay more taxes.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way. I didn't know that was a thing until it was a thing.
Yeah, till the bill showed up.
Till the bill showed up.
Congratulations.
And I was like, what? Right now you want this?
Yeah. Congratulations. Your house went up in value. Your prizes, send us a check.
I still haven't recovered from that initial bill from I guess what they do is when a bunch of houses get sold in one area, they're like, hey, we got to change the taxes. And I guess the taxes for this house were the same for so long. It's actually part of why I bought it. I was like, look at these low taxes.
That left with the previous owner.
Had no idea about that.
Surprise.
Yeah. I mean, I probably was told, but my realtor talked a lot. Like,
stop it.
She's lovely and she's great, but she did her job as a realtor, and there's a lot that you have to pay attention to. So, as somebody with ADD, I tuned out for 47% of it.
Oh, that's more than you listen to more than half. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
exactly. What's the house number? What's the interest rate number where that puts houses to like a dead stop almost? I mean, do we historically have that number?
Well, that's be tough to pinpoint.
It's because it's a combination of things, right? It's easy to say, well, if the market goes to 6, people are just going to bow out. Now there's some recency bias there, meaning that whatever happened yesterday, we expect to happen tomorrow. But if my first house I bought in 91, I paid 6.25% and thought I was getting a deal, right? My parents bought a house in the 80s.
Probably over 10.
Oh, well over 10. I think it was 12%. So it's context, right? So but then you say, oh, okay, well, I'm buying a house and I'm paying 12%, or in my case, you're paying 6%, but the CD rates are 5.5 and the munis are paying 4.8. So, it all kind of ebbs and flows together, the good and the bad. So really it's about context. So right now, people looking at houses in their minds, the rate is 3 or the rate is 4, because that's more or less what they've experienced over the last decade. Now, if we go through a period of 5 or 6 years where rates are 5 or 6, you'll see that housing pick up again, regardless of the rate, because that's what people are used to hearing.
Because
right?
the norm. Yeah.
It doesn't feel bad to them. So it's, you're a lobster boiling in the pot, right? The water's warm, and then the next thing you know, you're boiling. It's like, oh, feels good. Oh, wait, this doesn't feel so good anymore, right? So you got to get to a point where you're acclimated to that rate, and then housing will take off again. So I don't know that there's it witnessed the 12% my parents paid in the 80s. There probably isn't a number long term that deters people because they just get used to that number.
Is there a benefit? Like, I know we talked about car leases the other day, kind of not the greatest of deal in your opinion, but is there a benefit to just renting?
Well, I would say
If I want to become a rich person, I know you don't make people wealthy, but like, can you do it if you're a renter?
sure, you could, right? So but the idea historically has been I can rent a 2-bedroom apartment for less than the mortgage on my a 2-bedroom house.
Yeah, that's not true. No.
Plus, and that's not true right now, right? So why would you make that decision? Now, you could argue if you bought a $300,000 house, there's probably $5,000 to $10,000 worth of upkeep every year. You got to mow the lawn, you got to buy a trimmer, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to fix the plumbing, whatever, right? So there's something to be said for the simplicity of renting because you just call somebody and they come fix it. I hope. But the cost of renting is not substantially less than the cost of ownership right now. So it's a weird time for that. Not to say if you rent, you couldn't do other things. You couldn't save in your 401k or put money in the bank or heck, just buy rental real estate that you don't want to live in. I don't know. It doesn't prohibit you from doing those things, but most Americans acquire at least half of their wealth from their homes, right? So it's kind of a big deal, home ownership. It's why we emphasize it so much in this country, is because it's where, generational wealth can be made. So if you lived on modest means and you were a middle class blue collar type worker, and you made 40, 50, 60 grand a year, and yeah, you didn't save $1 million, but your house you paid 124 20 years ago and now it's worth 340 or 420, and you pass that wealth on to your children, that's a bigger base from them to start. You follow me on that?
Absolutely.
So the idea of wealth accumulation, the American home plays a large role in that. And I don't think we should diminish that, but I also don't think we should be over focused on it too, because I've had wealthy people, in fact, and physicians are very guilty of this. I like to pick on physicians. I have some awesome ones as clients, but my experience with them oftentimes, for a variety of reasons that include legal issues, will buy a giant house. Right out of their residency, they get their first big paycheck and they're like, I'm buying a big house. And they buy the 6,000, 7,000 square foot house over in wherever. And they'll say to me, Scott, I don't need to save because someday I'm just going to sell my house. And then I'm going to take that $2 million and I'm going to invest 1.8 of it and live in an apartment. Okay. No, you're not. You and your wife and your kids are not going to spend your entire lives in a 7,000 square foot house with a pool and amenities and then go live in an apartment that's 800 square feet. You're not doing that. So that's probably an overemphasis on the house thing. But certainly the American home plays an extremely large role in the accumulation of wealth in this country.
Awesome. And you can find more advice like that through past shows, through just going to the website, through Financial Talks with Tammy. You say, where do I find Financial Talks with Tammy, Ryan? And I say, why are you talking with such a high voice? But you go to edgewaterfamilywealth.com. Edgewaterfamilywealth.com is the place to go, and you get all the contact information. Plus, you can email Scott at edgewaterfamilywealth@raymondjames.com, and we'll be back with more It's Only Money here on Real Radio 104.1. And you're listening to It's Only Money here on Real Radio 104.1. Happy Sunday to you. I'm Ryan from the Monsters, and I'm here with Scott Brown of Edgewater Family Wealth. EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com is the website, and the head of the Finheads, Tammy, is here as well. Everybody's wearing their market caps this morning, and it's flying by, fellas. It's flying by this morning. And now is the time where we go to your emails. Now you can email Scott at Raymond James at nope, that's not it. EdgewaterFamilyWealth@RaymondJames.com. There we go. EdgewaterFamilyWealth@RaymondJames.com is that email. Because what I was going to say and what threw me off is like, yeah, Scott, he does the business. You can go see him at his office, and he's never made anybody wealthy, but maybe we'll change that a little bit.
Hey, there's always a first.
There's always a first time.
Maybe it's you out there, you listener. You're the first person
check
to
out
ever be made wealthy by Scott Brown. That is the worst marketing pitch I've ever heard in my life.
Check out Scott's book, I Made One Person Wealthy. The secret to I've never been the sequel.
I feel like we need to now define that I did write a book called I Never Made Anyone Rich, and the theory or the reason that I did that was to dispel the myth that financial advisors' job is to make people rich. Their job is to partner with people to A, accumulate wealth, and B, maintain that wealth through administrative things, tax planning, yes, designing portfolios that are thoughtful and will remain so over the long term. Their job is not to buy you a stock at $1 that'll be $100 tomorrow. Because if that were their job, they would have been out of the job a long time ago.
Yeah, it does seem to be like if somebody is pitching you that, their last name probably is Madoff.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of folks that have pitched that idea and still continue. I mean, you can turn on TV any day of the week and see somebody out there kind of insinuating that that's what they can do. They don't come right out and say it because, regulators don't like when you say certain things, but there are plenty that insinuate. And what I find with people before we get to the questions is that a lot of times they're looking for that. And they're looking for that because they've been told to look for that. Because, right, you see ads for trading platforms where the guy's on a yacht dancing with beautiful women, and you think, I want a yacht and beautiful women. I'll trade this way, right? So, that's probably not a fair description of how the relationship should go. And to date, I've not seen that happen. But the reality is you're looking for a partner, not a printout, not a secret, not a shortcut. And that's the reason I titled the book that way.
Awesome. Well, that's good. Yeah, you don't really see those. I remember in like the 80s, like growing up, late 80s, there would be a guy on a yacht and like, this is the business. Come and follow me. And people bought into it. Dad.
We don't have yachts in the office.
I just assumed the headquarters of Edgewater Family Wealth was a yacht.
It is. It's a giant yacht.
Yeah,
super yacht they call it.
It's not even on the water. It's a land yacht.
it's on the edge of the water.
Yeah. Well, that's where we get the name Edgewater.
Crushed that joke. I love that. All right.
Here all day.
First question comes from Tammy, and Tammy lives out in Claremont.
Is that a question from Tammy to Tammy?
Oh, Tammy on Tammy.
Hello, Tammy. Hello.
all Tammys and Tammys know each other, I'm sure. And she says, I'm about to retire. Will getting money from my 401k affect my eligibility for continuing to get Social Security or Medicaid? Cade? I don't know.
Cade or Cade. Care is probably what she's asking about, Medicare. And the answer is no. It doesn't affect your ability. What getting money, any kind of income does to Social Security is it doesn't, first of all, a lot of people think if I make too much money, I won't get Social Security. That's not a thing. You're going to get your Social Security. The really where the question lies is in the taxability of the Social Security. So if you make over a certain income, and I honestly don't remember the number anymore, but it's in the mid to upper 30s now, I think. If you make over that amount, they begin to tax your Social Security, which of course, upsets people. And I get it. If you feel like you're being taxed on a tax.
What's the tax? I mean, like, is it a significant amount? It's just your income
tax. So if you go, I'm going to make up a number, but let's say it's $35,000, and then you make $38,000. That overage they would tax you at your. So if you're making $100,000 and you're in a 28% tax bracket, they would tax you 28% on that overage. So, and there's a formula there that I don't even remember, but it's basically what you're worried about is not getting it or not being eligible for Medicare. It's the taxability of those benefits.
So if the made up number is 35 before taxes, and then you make 38, it would only be taxed on that last 2,000.
I think they start to tax you on about half of it at that point. There's a formula again that I don't know exactly, and you could certainly talk to your accountant about that. But it's really the issue is not do I get it? The issue is will it be taxed?
Okay. My next question comes from me. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm from the Monsters in the Morning, which you were on Thursday.
That is so weird.
I know you, me.
Yeah, I'm zooming in live to my own brain. And Russ was talking about how on CBS Sunday Morning, I saw this big fat guy,
which is what he said, by the way.
Yeah. This is actual Russ's words. There's a big fat guy, and he was telling me, I don't have to pay my taxes and blah blah blah. And you weren't really sure what he was talking about right away, but then you came back in after the show, and you said it was life insurance.
Yes.
And there was some clarification that you gave, which was that it would actually end up costing you in like the fees and whatnot.
Yeah, so there is a sales school of thought out there that is ironically brought about by life insurance salespeople that says instead of putting money in your 401k, instead of putting money in whatever investment, mutual fund, index, whatever it is, you should buy a giant life insurance policy. And the theory is that you could buy that with money and never be taxed on it. But the reality is you're typically buying it with after-tax money. And you say, well, if I put $100,000 in a front-end loaded, for lack of a better term, cash value policy, because those exist, whole life, variable life, whatever it is, that I could then borrow money back out of it, right, with no taxes. So if I put in 100, theoretically it grows in 20 years to 200. I want to borrow 180 out and pay no taxes and live on that. I could do that. And there's some truth to that could work. The problem is that what you're not paying in taxes, you're paying in costs, because life insurance doesn't come free, right? They're not going to say, give me $100,000, we'll insure you for $1 million. And the delta between the $100,000 and the $1 million, the $900,000 in coverage, is not free, right? So they're charging you every year, probably in the beginning, 30, 40, 50% of what you put in to pay for the life insurance that gives you the tax-free benefit. You with me so far?
I am. My question only would be, so when you say you're paying them, it's not going to the overall cost. These are just straight up fees?
Straight up costs. You're not, that money's gone. You paid the insurance company for putting together this wonderful program for you, right? And now, and I want to be clear, because there's like a lot of things in life, and certainly in finance, there's no absolutes here. There are situations, and they are extremely rare, where that makes a little bit of sense. I emphasize a little bit of sense. I will tell you, in 36 years of being in this business, I have seen it. I have seen it, the hypotheticals or the proposals people get, and I've seen the net result, which never, ever, not once in my experience, looks like the proposal the person got 10, 20 years down the road, right? Because these costs are eating up the value of your account. So, I mean, in an example, and I'm going to overgeneralize, but if you put $100,000 in a cash value life insurance policy that has a $900,000 or $1 million benefit, 30 or 40% of that's going to go to fees. So your $100,000 is going to be worth 60 the day you do it. So while it might be great that in 10 years you can take money out tax-free, the reality is what you paid in fees is as much or more than the taxes would have been.
Yeah, and if I'm understanding this correctly, like if I put money in, you said that there's two versions of 401k. There's the one that you pay the taxes as it goes in, and then there's like a Roth IRA where you pay the taxes as it comes out, or am I getting those backwards?
Backwards. You got
backwards. Okay, so you got that backwards. Either way, there's one that you pay the taxes up front. There's one where you pay the taxes at the end.
That's right.
And but with this life insurance policy, it sounds like you're paying it with money that's been taxed already, whether in your paycheck or whatever, and then you get taxed on it through, well, A, you get fees, and then B, you get taxed on it, or not at all?
No,
or
you
no?
wouldn't. In there, the way they pitch it is as follows. You put in, let's say it came to you, say, Ryan, put $10,000 a year in this. We're going to cover you for $1 million worth of life insurance. And in 20 years, you're going to have a $500,000, and you're going to be able to take out $400,000 tax-free anytime you want.
Mm-hmm.
You say, oh, that's cool.
But I paid 40% in fees.
You paid probably, when it's all said and done, you probably averaged about 10 to 15% a year in costs, right? So negating, to me, because the money's not going to grow nearly as fast when you're shellacking it every year with fees, right?
Right.
So would you have been better off to not do that, to not have the life insurance and put the money in investment, pay taxes on it, but let it grow with minimal costs, right? That's the argument you have to have with yourself. And all I can tell you is I'm not saying these are bad things. And there's a lot of times for very highly paid people, executives, physicians, and whatnot, that these things can make a little bit of sense. But for the average person, I'm telling you, my experience has been anecdotally that I've seen the proposals that people have been shown, and 20 years down the road, when they pull them out and say, this is what he told me, it never looks like this is what he told me.
And also, you get the added fear of your spouse knowing about the life insurance policy.
Right.
And that's, I mean, obviously, I don't think anything would happen to me due to my fiance, but if she knew that there was like a $2 million policy, she would think about it at least once.
You'd have to hire
in passing. She wouldn't do it. But I'm just saying, she's like, if a car hit him, I don't know.
Well, I think
when I yell, when I say like, hey, there's a car coming.
She ain't doing it. So that's because now you have the additional cost of a food taster, because you can't you can't eat dinner without somebody tasting it first.
Right. And what if you don't like your food taster, right? Like, what if they're a bore, not a great
There's
conversationalist?
so many problems.
They talk with their mouth full. I hate when my food taster talks with his mouth full. Oh, man, what a fun morning. Well, that is the end already of It's Only Money here on Real Radio. If you want to get a hold of Scott, Edgewater Family Wealth at RaymondJames.com is the email, but EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com is the website, or just look for the giant land yacht as you drive around and pull into the office. Either way works. I'm Ryan, and I'm here with Scott and Tammy. We'll see you next Sunday with more It's Only Money on Real Radio 104.1.
Yeah, and clearly people are rich, right? Or wealthy. You don't have to be rich. I like the term wealthy better. I mean, to rich reminds me of like the Monopoly guy or something. But, you know, they're people, they're regular people.
Now that guy I trust. You
Yeah,
see the
no.
problem, Scott? You don't have a monocle.
Monocle is, now, if you can meet a guy with a monocle, I mean, like, I'm all in.
What was his financial advice? He said buy Park Place?
Where is that?
Where is that? I can't find it.
Tune in to It's Only Money with Scott Brown from Edgewater Family Wealth, Sunday mornings at 7 on Real Radio 104.1. Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Edgewater Family Wealth is not a broker-dealer, is independent of RJFS.